Hello, welcome to whiskey review number 2. In my first whiskey review, I went over one of my favorite distilleries, Bruichladdich, but I wanted to talk about another one of my whiskeys in my whiskey collection. I'm not doing a review of a single whiskey yet, mainly because I'm filming this and the first one I filmed during the day, just during a break, and I don't really have I can't really pour a dram in the middle of the day and then go back to work. I just don't. I'd rather enjoy a dram at night. So, but we're going to talk about another one of the whiskeys that I have in my whiskey collection, and I keep adding bottles of this whiskey because I like this distillery so much, and just like Bruichladdich. And so it's kind of a testament to the quality and how much I like this distillery and the number of bottles that I've collected and the many times that I've ended up buying this whiskey over and over. And it's always something that I have in my bar, and that whiskey is Springbank. So today I'm going to go over 4 Springbanks that I have in my collection. I'll try to be brief about it. The first one is Springbank 10-year-old, which is, sorry, I do not have whiskey in this bottle. It is empty. I'm currently out of Springbank 10, but this is a whiskey that I normally have. Here's the label. This is a whiskey that I normally have in my collection or on my bar, and this is a go-to whiskey for me. Springbank 10, when I first tasted this whiskey, this was the very first Springbank I ever tasted. It was off the recommendation of a lot of internet vloggers and people on the internet that said that Springbank was such high quality and to start with the Springbank 10 and everything. So I went out, I bought a bottle of Springbank 10, sat down with it, started drinking it, and realized pretty early on that this was a whiskey that was pretty, it was going to take some time for me to figure it out. And I've been drinking Scotch whiskey and interested in Scotch whiskey for about 10 years. So it was about 2 years ago that I tasted Springbank for the first time. So I'd been drinking Scotch whiskey for about 8 years, and I went out and bought Springbank and really didn't know how to take it at first. This is not a really accessible whiskey to novice whiskey drinkers, people who haven't drank much Scotch whiskey, maybe people who haven't drank bourbon or have drank a lot of bourbon, and then they're starting to get into Scotch whiskey. This probably wouldn't be good for them either. If you've drank Speysides, Highlands, Lowlands, Islas, the coastal whiskeys, then this is, and you have a frame of reference for those, then this is where you go to next. It took about 3/4 of that first bottle that I had for me to really figure it out, and I spent a lot of time trying to figure this whiskey out and trying to smell and nose and research what I was smelling because I just didn't understand it. It was so different. This is not just some smoky thing or just some sherry bomb or something like that that's you can categorize as sweet or smoky or something like that. This is something totally different. It's extremely briny and fruity, and the longer it sits in the glass and you add a dab of water, it's gonna come out with citrus notes. It's gonna change, it's gonna morph. This is not something you pour and just start drinking. It really needs time in the glass, and the more time you spend with it, the more rewarding it is. I also get some really interesting earthy notes to it. Excuse me, my phone's going off here. I get some really interesting earthy notes here with this, and that's, I think, the main thing that I love about this whiskey is that I'm getting this freshly tilled soil smell from it. It's like when you smell earth that's been freshly moved. There's a really interesting, moist, earthy smell to it, and I think you'll know what I'm talking about. It's really appealing. It smells good, And this whiskey has that, but that quality is in this bottle. I love it. It's got a character of its own. It took me a long time to figure it out. I actually have a review here of it. I'm actually going to spend more time on this than these other bottles. I'll go through them pretty quick. But I wrote a review on it, and it's in when you write in your notes in your notebook. Sometimes I'll leave space to review, to go back to it, because I first reviewed this, or not reviewed it, but I first took notes on this, and then my opinion changed of it over time because what was in the bottle changed from when it was new to when I ended up reviewing it, or taking my notes. It changed in the bottle. It got better. All right, so give it time. But I have here as my notes. I'll just go through this real quick. Nose: briny, fruitcake, sour fruit. Citrus is very pronounced. Grapefruit, lemon. This really rewards you the longer you spend with it. Take your time with it. The taste is immediate. It's fresh, it's crisp, briny, salty. It has a grapefruit sourness to it, a little bit in the back of the tongue. Fruitcake has a long finish. It'll stay with you for a long time. I have here, it's a challenging malt. It's the most challenging one that it's kind of, this is a discovery malt for me. I've taken a lot of time to discover this one. It's challenging, and it lingers on your palate and your nose. The more time you spend with it, the more rewarding it is. And then I revisited this, and on my revisit I said, this malt has become one of my favorite malts. Its complexity, brininess, earthy character is so unique. I have yet to taste another with the character of Springbank. And I actually changed the mark I gave it too. I gave it 2 more points when I revisited it. So, Springbank 10, very accessible. You can get it almost everywhere. I recommend it. Go out and try it. Don't just hand it to your friend and say, here, try this whiskey. They will not like it. They will say, I don't care for that. But give this some time. It may take a little bit. If you've never tasted a Springbank, it may take a little bit for you to get into it. But once you do, once it clicks, you'll enjoy it a lot. So that's Springbank 10. I've had multiple bottles of that. All right, my second here, I have the Springbank 15. This is their next in the line. Springbank 10 costs about $60 or so. This Springbank 15 actually runs a little bit more. You can get it for $100. I've seen it for $90. But this is, once again, very similar to the 10, more mature though. This is 5 years older, and you get a lot of that. You get that same Springbank beefy, malty, earthy character to it. Excellent malt. This is my very first bottle of it. I've only drank about half of it, and I haven't even written full notes on it yet. I've just written my overall views so far. Haven't even written any specifics or anything like that. So again, I'm taking time with this one, just like I did with the 10. I suggest when you're serious about really looking at your whiskey, you do the same. Springbank 15, I recommend it. This next one is something that I found in the store. I'm going to show you this bottle. This is a really neat bottle. I think this is kind of the classiest packaging and label that I can think of. It's beautiful. This is Springbank anniversary, 175th anniversary Springbank 12-year-old single malt whiskey. It's bottled at 46%, just like all the Springbanks I have here. This is a limited edition bottle of 12,000 bottles. I found this in my local liquor store. This is an example of something that you can find in your local liquor store. This was in the very back of the rack. They didn't even know they had it. It had a pile of dust on it. And when I found it, I knew that I had something special. I immediately looked it up on my phone and knew that I had something that was worth buying. it was even discounted because they didn't know what they had, and I paid a very low price on this, and I'm saving this for a special occasion. I'm going to hold on to this. This is part of my collection now, unopened. Michael Jackson, in one of his books, I have a couple of these Michael Jackson whiskey review books. Of course, they change every year, so try to update it. But he has a review of this one in the book, and he gave it a 90 out of 100. That's a solid score from a very accomplished whiskey writer. And very excited to open this one day. I actually based my whiskey tasting group's logo on this bottle, and it works perfectly for us. I'll show you it here. This is the logo that I came up with. See how close I can get? It's Albuquerque Whiskey Club. See if that'll focus. Now, basically I took this bottle and I changed all the writing on the inside, and we describe our city and what we do here, and it worked out perfect for our label. So thanks to Springbank for a great label and a great bottle. Hopefully it's as good as some of the reviews I've read on it. I'm really excited about that one. This last one is Springbank CV. Now, I want to say something. As great as Springbank is, and I hadn't tasted a whiskey that I was disappointed with them yet, this one was a disappointment. It's an example of how any whiskey maker can make something that may not be as up to par. But what they did was they took a bunch of different barrels, they blended them together. The distiller there made this edition of Springbank, and they bottled it and sent it out. And it's pretty cheap. It's about, it's in the $40 price range. So they bottled this at a cheaper range than even their 10-year-old, and you can taste it in the bottle. It doesn't have the long finish. It doesn't have the complexity that the other Springbanks have. It doesn't have that earthy quality that I look for in the Springbank. And pretty much once you swallow this, it doesn't have a long finish at all. It just fades away. And so I don't recommend buying this one. If you see it and you go, oh, well, let's introduce myself to Springbank, I'll buy the Springbank CV. Don't do it. All right? Spend the extra $15 and get the Springbank 10. That's my recommendation to you. So, that's my Springbank collection. I know it's not that big. I haven't had Springbank 18 yet. The price jumps pretty substantially. I mean, we're looking at $130, something like that, for Springbank 18. When I get it, I'll definitely do a review on it, and I'm definitely going to do a review on a lot of these individual bottles that I've been showing. I'm going to do an in-depth review. But thank you for watching. Feel free to comment on any of my videos. That would be really helpful to me. Request a review on any of these bottles, my Bruichladdich review or the Springbank review, and I'll review an individual bottle, and I'll make sure to do tasting notes. So with that said, thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.